Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. Oxford University is so old that it actually predates the Aztec Empire's formation by over 200 years. Teaching was being done at the school in the year 1096, while the Aztec civilization didn't begin until the year 1325. In December of 2012, two neuroscientists successfully implanted a false memory into a mouse, causing it to become stiff and afraid as it recalled something that never actually happened. The late Michael Jackson composed much of the music used in the video games Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, but refused credit after hearing how the song sounded when mixed in. The country of Australia has 10,685 beaches, so many that if you visited a different one every day, it would take you over 29 years to set foot on all of them. Since as early as 1872, the character of Humpty Dumpty has been portrayed as an egg in almost every medium he appears in, yet the nursery rhyme contains no mention of him being an egg. On February 1st, 2005, a picture of a captured American soldier was posted on a website frequented by Iraqi rebels, along with demands for prisoners to be freed or else he'd be beheaded. Soon after, Dragon Models, a US toy company, announced that the prisoner wasn't a soldier at all, but an action figure doll that they'd made. Situated on the border between Canada and the United States, Lake Superior is the third largest freshwater lake on Earth. In fact, there's enough water in the lake to cover all of North America and South America to a depth of up to 30 centimeters. According to the American Chemical Society, catnip is far better at keeping mosquitoes away than DEET, a common ingredient used in bug repellents. In the entire history of the NBA, no player has ever worn the jersey number 69. On multiple occasions, nuclear reactors in different parts of the world have had to be shut down due to overheating. The unlikely culprits behind the events? Jellyfish. The animals actually clogged up water intakes used to cool the reactors and had to be removed before the plants could be operational again. Baby rabbits are born without any fur, blind, and so weak that they can barely move on their own, while hares are born with plenty of hair, the ability to see, and with enough strength to bounce soon after they emerge. As a joke, popular Australian comedian Hamish Blake entered the New York Bodybuilding Championships in 2011 after being challenged to do so. Incredibly, Blake actually won because he was the only competitor to enter in the over 200 pounds weight category. A study involving 33 laparoscopic surgeons revealed that the 9 of them who were experienced at playing video games made 37% fewer mistakes and completed procedures 27% faster than the 24 who rarely or never played them. In January of 2016, a hound dog named Lou Divine snuck out of her owner's backyard in Elkmont, Alabama, and chased after some runners, accidentally completing an entire half marathon. She was awarded 7th place. The first public anti-smoking and anti-tobacco movement in modern history was actually started by the Nazi Party after German doctors discovered a link between smoking cigarettes and developing lung cancer. According to a number of researchers, American doctor Maurice Hilleman saved more lives than any other scientist in the 20th century. This is because he developed as many as 9 out of the 14 vaccines commonly given to children, including ones for measles, mumps, and chickenpox. Just outside of Alliance, Nebraska in the United States, there's a popular recreation of Stonehenge made entirely out of old cars. Carhenge consists of 39 different cars and trucks from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and has been arranged to resemble the mysterious landmark as closely as possible. In April of 2012, Mohammed Ashan, a commander for the Taliban, turned himself in to Afghan troops at a checkpoint in an attempt to claim the $100 reward that had been offered for his capture. He was arrested and didn't receive the reward. Back in the 18th century, the cost of admission to the zoo in London, England was 3 halfpence, but those who couldn't afford that were allowed entry if they supplied a cat or dog to be fed to the lions. Daniel Kish lost both of his eyes to cancer as a baby, but navigates today thanks to his mastery of human echolocation an ability in which he sees using the echoes of sound that bounces off objects, similar to how bats move around. On September 1st, 2009, the City Council of Madison, Wisconsin voted 15-4 in favor of making the city's official bird the plastic pink flamingo, and it's still the official bird today. There are more plastic pink flamingos in people's yards in the United States than real living ones in the wild. Polar bears can eat and store an incredible amount of vitamin A, so much so that if you were to consume a polar bear's liver, you would more than likely die from hypervitaminosis A, or simply put, vitamin A poisoning. Over the course of his life, Walter Summerford was struck by lightning on 3 separate occasions. He died in 1912, but 4 years later, his tombstone was struck by lightning as well. Dubbed the largest battle in the history of the internet, Battle BR5RB was a player versus player fight in the game EVE Online that took over 21 hours to play out and consisted of over 7,548 player characters. In Japan, it takes longer to become an itame or sushi chef than it does to become a doctor. Some work for as long as 20 years to receive such an honorable position. Female dragonflies have been known to fake their own deaths in order to stop their male counterparts from trying to initiate mating rituals. In 1951, after missing a golden plover with a shot, managing director of Guinness Brewery Sir Hugh Beaver got into an argument over whether the bird was the fastest game bird in Europe. After realizing there was no resource to resolve the matter, he decided to create his own. So he started the Guinness Book of World Records. In July of 2013, scientists in China successfully grew teeth using stem cells that they collected from human urine. There are some mad scientists out there. Misomaniacs are people who literally hate everyone and everything. It can often stem from the fear that everyone already hates them, so they simply hate them back. In 2008, a survey conducted in Coos Bay, Oregon, revealed that panhandlers asking for money outside of the local Walmart made far more money than most of the employees working inside the store. In some cases, the daily amount was reportedly more than employees make in a week. For their entire life, a swan will only ever have one partner. When that partner dies, it's possible for the surviving swan to also pass away from brokenheartedness. In 2014, to protest the craziness of Black Friday shopping, the company behind the game Cards Against Humanity decided not to put any products on sale, but instead sold and shipped out 30,000 boxes of bull excrement. What a crappy deal. Each year, May 29th is celebrated as Put a Pillow on Your Fridge Day in many places in Europe and the United States. It's meant to bring good fortune and prosperity, and literally all that you have to do is put your pillow on your refrigerator. There is a small number of human beings who were born with a resistance or even total immunity to HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. Sadly, that number is estimated to be less than 1%. According to an online survey commissioned by the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy, around 7% of American citizens believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. When spelled out properly, 40 is the only number to have its letters already arranged in alphabetical order. 1 is the only number with its letters in reverse alphabetical order. Though they're mostly decorative today, spiked and studded dog collars originated in Turkey many years ago, when shepherds placed the protective pieces around their sheepdogs' necks in order to protect them from wolves. During an early writers' room meeting for the animated show The Simpsons, series creator Matt Groening claimed that if the character Marge were to ever let her hair down, it would be revealed that she had rabbit ears. The idea was obviously abandoned for being too ridiculous. There was once a court case called Batman vs. Commissioner, but instead of the Dark Knight suing the leader of Gotham Police, it was a farmer named Ray Batman who was trying to appeal a decision to increase what he'd been taxed by the IRS. The hair on a sloth is so long and coarse that it's the perfect place for algae to flourish. The algae actually helps camouflage the animal so well that some sloths have been known to grab their own arms, thinking that they're branches instead of limbs, and end up falling to their own deaths. Almost exclusively found in and around the state of Vermont, witch windows look like normal house windows, except that they're turned 45 degrees. Legends say that if a window is angled in such a way, witches have a hard time entering the home through them on their broomsticks. The richest animal on the planet is Gunther IV, a German shepherd who received an inheritance of over $300 million from his canine father, Gunther III, who in turn inherited the fortune in 1492 from a German countess named Carlotta Liebenstein. Studies have shown that significantly more serial killers and mass murderers were born in the month of November than any other month. After the Cult Awareness Network labeled Scientology as ruthless, dangerous, and terroristic, the network was sued by the religion and was forced into bankruptcy. Shortly thereafter, a group including several Scientologists bought the CAN's assets to silence them. In Japan, golfers often purchase a strange type of insurance that covers them if they get a hole-in-one. Traditionally, getting one means that you have to buy drinks and gifts for your friends, so this insurance covers you for up to $3,000 towards that expense. Nearly every armadillo that belongs to the genus Dapacis gives birth to quadruplets. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, students can fulfill their physical education requirements with archery, fencing, shooting guns, and sailing. Doing so will earn them the official pirate certificate. The word oxymoron is itself an oxymoron. It's derived from the ancient Greek words oxy, which means sharp, and moros, which means foolish or dull. During World War II, the Dickin Medal of Honor was awarded to Gustav the Pigeon after he flew 241 kilometers to the British mainland, informing them of the Normandy invasion. The biggest bank robbery in English history was committed by a group of men known as the Grandpa Gang. The thieves, the oldest of which was 76 years old, made off with over $200 million in cash and jewelry. Now you know where your grandpa gets the money for that $5 he gives you every time he sees you. In 2002, researcher Andrew Balmford conducted a study and found that 8-year-olds in Britain were able to correctly identify 80% of all Pokemon, but only around 50% of common species of wildlife. To prove that he was receiving unfair marks from a Harvard English professor, author Michael Crichton once submitted an essay by George Orwell and claimed that it was his own. The unknowing professor gave the essay a B-. After going bankrupt 3 times within 60 years, Wensleydale Cheese was on the brink of going out of business, but caught a big break when they were mentioned in an animated short film featuring Wallace and Gromit. Sales spiked and the company was saved thanks to a cartoon. In an effort to detect nuclear tests being conducted by Soviet forces in the late 1940s, the United States Air Force initiated Project Mogul. The operation consisted of microphones mounted on high-altitude hot air balloons, which detected sound waves at long range. Famous Mark Twain storybook character Huckleberry Finn was actually based on Twain's childhood friend Tom Blankenship. Tom, who was 4 years Twain's senior, grew up with the author in Hannibal, Missouri. The classic arcade game Pac-Man was originally designed to never end. However, if you are skilled enough to make it to level 256, the game goes haywire and makes the level impossible to actually conquer. In an effort to raise money for an anti-poverty organization known as Glide, a lunch with billionaire investing giant Warren Buffett was auctioned off on eBay. Bidding started at only $25,000 but closed at a whopping $3.3 million. Looking to add a little variety to its diet, an orca at Marineland in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, has learned to regurgitate fish in order to attract seagulls on the surface of the pool. It then chomps down on the bird. Seeing this, 4 other whales have begun to imitate this behavior. In 1784, a Japanese treasure hunter named Chanosuke Matsuyama wrote a message on some coconut wood, which said that his ship had wrecked on an island in the South Pacific. He placed it in a bottle and tossed it into the sea. That bottle wasn't found until 1935, when it finally washed ashore in the same village that Matsuyama was born in. Paul D'Amato's 1977 Slapshot character Tim McCracken was an inspiration behind legendary X-Man Wolverine's massive sideburns and facial hair. After being eaten, some species of insect, like the pea aphid, will actually self-destruct, exploding in an attempt to frighten or even kill their enemies. Noella Rukundo, a Burundi woman, narrowly escaped death after the hitman hired to kill her by her husband set her free, claiming they did not believe in killing women. She then shocked her husband 5 days later when she suddenly showed up to her own funeral. The genius Dieffenbachia, also known as the mother-in-law's tongue, can render someone who comes in contact with its poison temporarily speechless. Before officially changing it to Lisbon, Portugal's capital city was Rio de Janeiro. It was the only European capital city that was not actually in Europe. During the 1960 Summer Olympics, Prince Constantine II, who would later become Greece's last king, won the first gold medal in sailing the country that they had seen since 1912. In 2013, an April Fool's prank took a bad turn when two Florida DJs told their listeners that their taps were dispensing dihydrogen monoxide. The prank caused a panic, which led to the DJs being suspended and ordered to pay a fine. Hilariously, dihydrogen monoxide is meant to come out of the taps, which is just another way to say water. In 1993, while filming The Saint of Fort Washington, actor Ving Rhames was introduced to a homeless man, who he quickly discovered was actually his older brother Junior. The older Rhames had been missing, and his family had been searching for him since he served in Vietnam. To prove that the use of pretty women in his videos was not the only thing that made his music popular, Indian singer Dollar Mendy created a video using only himself. It went on to be a huge hit in India and a viral meme. In 1994, Tom Berenger opened a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York called Twins, which employed 29 sets of identical twins. The reason Baloo from Disney's The Jungle Book appears to be lazy is because his attributes are based on a sloth bear, a mopey-looking animal that primarily lives in India and Nepal. Due to their children's lack of access to cookies, Sesame Street in Nigeria created their own version of the Cookie Monster known as Zobi the Yam Monster. Yum, yum, yum. Research done in the late 1960s revealed that people experienced a marijuana-like high from catnip, but the results were dismissed when it was discovered that, in fact, they had accidentally switched the plants with actual marijuana. Swedish furniture superstore IKEA's name actually stands for Ingvar Kamprad Elmtarid Aga Unarid. That's the name of the company's founder, the farm he grew up on, and his hometown. John M. Allegra, one of the translators for the Dead Sea Scrolls, was convinced that Christianity was actually based on a psychedelic mushroom and fertility cult. The existence of atoms and the space between them was supposed in 400 BC by the philosopher Democritus. The world's oldest continuously tended garden is one of the classical gardens of Suzhou in China. It's 973 years old. Der Sternewürth is an honored German tradition that allows the employees of a brewery to consume as much free beer as they want while they're working. The worship of Sapona, the god of smallpox, was outlawed in Nigeria after news broke that a cult was deliberately spreading the illness to increase power. Roman soldier Scipio Africanus managed to survive his country's defeats at Trasimene, Cannae, and Ticinus. However, he then led the Roman army as a general and went on to defeat Hannibal, one of the greatest military commanders in history. In Mbabaram, an extinct Australian language, the word for dog is dog, and pronounced almost exactly the same. What makes this so strange is there is no relation between English and that language. In October of 2012, the Haida Salmon Restoration Company, in partnership with Russ George, an American businessman, poured 100 tons of iron sulfate into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of British Columbia, Canada. They did this in order to promote the growth of plankton that are capable of absorbing carbon dioxide from the air. In 2009, a 28-year-old Russian man named Sergei Tuganov accepted a 3,000 pounds bet from two ladies that he could have sex with them for 12 hours straight. Half a day and a bottle of Viagra later, he collected his 3,000 pounds and then promptly dropped dead of a heart attack. Unlike humans, seagulls are able to drink both fresh water and seawater, as they're capable of separating the salt and excreting it through their nostrils. Though millions of people worldwide claim to possess one, there's actually no scientific proof that photographic memories exist in adult human beings. Valeria Messalina, the third wife of Roman Emperor Claudius, reportedly enjoyed moonlighting as a prostitute. She once had a competition with another local woman to see who could bed more men in one night. The Empress won. John Stonehouse, a British MP, attempted to fake his own death only to be discovered in Australia after he was mistaken for another famous missing person. Actor Joaquin Phoenix's last name used to be Bottom. However, after breaking free of the Children of God, a cult in Huntington Beach, California, his family changed all of their surnames to Phoenix to resemble rising from the ashes. For the movie Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks was supposed to use his natural accent. However, after Michael Connor Humphreys, the child actor who played the younger version of Gump in the film, had trouble adapting his voice to the older actor's accent, Hanks decided to adapt the boy's Mississippi one instead. Around the end of 1803, several people in the Hammersmith region of London, England, began reporting seeing a ghost in the area. On January 3, 1804, a bricklayer named Thomas Millwood was dressed in all-white work clothes and was walking through the town when he came upon an armed patrol. A member of the patrol mistook Millwood for the ghost and shot him in the face, killing him. If you ever tragically lose a finger or thumb and there's no doctor, you can actually have one of your toes transplanted to replace the digit. The procedure is fittingly called a toe-to-hand transplant. Storm babies are a real phenomenon in which the barometric pressure built up during a storm causes an expecting mother to go into spontaneous delivery. A 2005 study revealed that when it comes to heavier women, men are more attracted when they're hungry than when they've recently eaten. In 2007, a meteorite crashed down to Earth in the Puno region in Peru. Soon after, several locals began showing signs of mysterious illness. It was believed by some that an alien virus had come to town until it was discovered that the heat from the impact had evaporated arsenic in the area's contaminated groundwater. According to a report from July 2006, sloppy doctors' handwriting has been attributed to over 7,000 deaths and 1.5 million injuries every year in the United States alone. There's a tradition amongst Russian cosmonauts in which, just before boarding the transfer bus to take them to the space shuttle, they urinate on the bus's right rear wheel. Females are allowed to skip the ritual, though many still participate, bringing their urine in a cup or vial. What is wrong with people? A 48-year-old schizophrenic computer programmer named Terry Davis spent 10 years developing an operating system called Temple OS. He claims he made it so that people could talk to God. Merida, the independent princess character from the animated film Brave, is the only Disney princess to not sing in her movie or at least have a love interest. On May 18, 1980, American photographer Robert Landsberg was documenting the eruption of Mount St. Helens when he suddenly realized he couldn't be able to outrun the cloud of ash that was headed for him. Wanting to preserve what he recorded, Landsberg rewound the film, put everything back in its proper case, and then laid his body over it to protect it. His body was found 17 days later, but his work survived and provided key details to geologists studying the eruption. The longest mountain range on Earth is actually underwater. The mid-ocean range is over 80,000 kilometers long and much of it is volcanic. When mating, dragonflies and damselflies form their body into a heart shape. The males use claspers at the end of their abdomen which fit perfectly into species-specific grooves on the female, and both contort until a heart is formed. In an attempt to deal with a devastating mosquito population in the Florida Keys, real estate developer Richter Clyde Quirky constructed a 2.74 meter tall bat house. He claimed that the structure had everything that a little bat heart could desire, and once a decent number of the animals moved in, they would begin eliminating the insects pestering everyone. Unfortunately, not a single bat moved in. Banana trees are not actually trees, they're hibiscus plants or herbs. Their trunks are made up of tightened leaves and contain no woody tissue. The first ever Google Doodle replaced the standard logo on August 30th, 1998 as a type of out-of-office message. It featured a Burning Man stick figure that informed people that founders Larry and Sergey couldn't fix any bugs or issues because they were attending the Burning Man festival in Nevada. In 1929, two researchers at Princeton University successfully transformed a house cat into a working telephone. Somehow the cat actually survived, only to die when a pair tried to repeat the experiment. Before closing in 2006, Eglin Federal Prison Camp, a minimum security facility, was considered to be so cushy that it was given the nickname Club Fed. Just think, there was a time when inmates could play golf or tennis, go swimming, and even dine on lobster, all on your tax dollar. In 1838, Mexican General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna was hit by cannon fire and had to have his leg amputated. Strangely, 4 years after the limb was removed, the general ordered it to be dug up and given a full military funeral, complete with speeches and prayers. It was buried in a crystal vase beneath an elaborate monument in Santa Paula Cemetery. Plane crashes happen far less often than you might think. Very few flights actually crash, and if they did, the odds that you die in one are only 1 in 11 million. Literally, even if the plane that you're in does go down, nearly 95.7% of people survive them. Studies have shown that the first thing people notice about you subconsciously is what you're wearing on your feet, your shoes. On August 3rd, 2015, the South Florida Museum opened a brand new exhibit showcasing the largest collection of fossilized poop on the planet. Another poop fact is that the largest fossilized turd in their collection is from a prehistoric crocodile, and it's the size of a puppy. The team has nicknamed it Precious. I'm not joking. Although they have a rodent-like appearance, elephant shrews are not classified with true shrews. As insectivorous mammals, they actually have more in common with elephants than shrews. Donkeys and zebras are capable of mating with each other. There's a visual for you. The crossbreed of the two species is called a zonkey. Shot in the head in 1915 during World War I, Paul Kern managed to survive, but his frontal lobe had taken severe damage. After waking up from surgery, the Hungarian man did not sleep again. But amazingly, he passed away in 1955, 40 years after being shot and having never slept a wink during that time. 10 years after being purchased, the average mattress more than doubles in weight due to dead skin, sweat, and dust mites it takes in. You might want to think about changing your mattress. Baby bats are usually born feet first, and often the mother will hang upside down and catch the newborn in her wings as it leaves her. Between 1955 and 1966, a number of people hiking in the woods along the Tomoka River near Daytona, Florida, reported seeing a mysterious pink fog that stayed close to the ground. Many of them claimed that the cloud was carnivorous, and it's been blamed for the disappearances of at least a dozen people. Still to this day, it's unknown what the fog is or where it came from. Yo, we're living in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. The first ever Google server racks were built using Lego bricks. At the time, the construction toys were considered cost effective, and the structures were easier to expand than more permanent solutions. High school student David Merrill once conducted an experiment on mice, making them listen to heavy metal music 24 hours a day and testing to see if it had any negative effect on their ability to navigate a maze. And he was kind of right, because instead of getting smarter, the mice killed each other. In the winter of 1916 to 1917, large packs of starving wolves began attacking the German and Russian forces battling it out in World War I. Things became so bad that both sides agreed to a temporary alliance simply to deal with the vicious animals. According to mathematicians, every glass of water you drink has at least one molecule of water in it that was once consumed by Cleopatra. Additionally, every sip you take has at least one that was consumed by a dinosaur. On April 23, 1982, frustrated with border patrol roadblocks and being treated like a foreign country, the city of Key West, Florida, declared secession from the United States and became a conch republic. The new nation then declared war on the US, surrendered less than a minute later, and immediately applied for $1 billion in foreign aid money. Amazingly, the silly ordeal led to real change, and the roadblocks were soon after removed. Flamingos consume food by stirring up mud in shallow waters with their webbed feet, and then taking a mouthful of the murk. Their beaks have a filter-like structure which takes out creatures like plankton, tiny fish, and crustaceans, which they survive on. The pink color that flamingos are known for isn't the shade that they are naturally. They're actually a very pale, almost white color and get the deeper pink hues due to the ingestion of beta-carotene, an organic pigment in the species of plankton and crustaceans they eat. Niger is considered to be the country with the youngest population. Though it's home to 18 million people, nearly half of them are under 15 years old. The reason for this is likely to the ridiculously high fertility rate of 6.6 children per every woman. People in Soviet labor camps used to sneak out and ingest condoms attached to rubber tubes. They would fill them with raw alcohol and sneak them back to the camp, where other prisoners would hang them upside down to use them as human kegs. In 1939, German dictator Adolf Hitler was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize by Eric Brandt, a member of the Swedish parliament. The nomination was ultimately cancelled and no Peace Prize was ever given out that year. Despite claims that it only sank after its completion, Italy's Leaning Tower of Pisa was never actually straight. The foundation of the structure was built on soft ground that never settled properly, and thus was incapable of supporting any weight evenly. A law was passed in Florida in 1998 that says that all state-funded daycares and preschools had to play classical music for children. It was believed that the Mozart effect would help properly develop young minds, and the law remains today, even after the effect was disapproved. Ironically, when the American Civil War began, Union General Ulysses S. Grant owned at least one slave, while Confederate General Robert E. Lee owned none. In 1666, the Great Fire of London devastated the city, destroying over 13,300 buildings and leaving as many as 70,000 inhabitants without homes. But despite this, only 6 verified deaths were officially recorded as having occurred. A leech's body is divided into 32 segments, each one of them with its own brain. They also have 2 reproductive organs and 9 pairs of testes. Those are complicated creatures. Google has a rule that no part of their offices can be more than 150 feet or 45.7 meters from some type of food. Like the legendary Bigfoot in the more northern states, Florida has its own mythical beast, the skunk ape. This 2.4 meter tall humanoid primate, which apparently smells like rotten eggs or cow manure, was incredibly popular in the 70s. So many sightings were reported that state representatives actually attempted to make it a misdemeanor to take, possess, harm, or molest anthropoid or humanoid animals. Due to mutations in their genes, house cats, bottlenose dolphins, and a number of other carnivorous creatures cannot detect sugar or taste any sweetness at all. Birds are not affected by the heat given off when wild chilies are consumed. This is believed to be an evolutionary trait needed for birds to be able to spread seeds in a wider area in their droppings. The type of music you listen to can not only influence your mood, but how you think. Studies show that different genres of music affect your brain in different ways, making you able to heal from emotional trauma faster, be more patient, or even make you a more confident person. In 1912, a raffle was held on behalf of an orphanage in Paris, France, that needed money to stay afloat. But as prizes, those who won the lottery were given babies. There was an Amish beach in Sarasota, Florida called Pinecraft, where people who prefer a simpler life can enjoy the sand and sun while keeping to their traditions and lifestyle. It's literally an Amish paradise and is likely the only one of its kind on Earth. The longest war in recorded history was the 335 Years' War. It was between the Netherlands and the Isles of Scilly from 1651 to 1986. However, not only were there no casualties, but not a single shot was fired. When they were looking for a new shape for their bottles in 1915, Coca-Cola only told glass makers to design a bottle so distinct that you would recognize it by feel in the dark or lying broken on the ground. The Root Glass Company won the elongated ribbed cocoa bean design the soda company is famous for today. In 2013, pilot Linda Ducharme renewed her vows with Bruce, a Ferris wheel she had previously married. During the ceremony, she fed the spinning ride a slice of pizza, and a Catholic priest officiant declared, "I tie you flesh and steel." Yeah, this is not a joke again, and Ducharme truly loves Bruce. Yeah, you're looking kind of dry today, Bruce. Gonna oil you up. Oh yeah, you like that? Located in Longwood, Florida, the Senator was a 3,500-year-old cypress tree that was considered the 5th oldest on Earth. Unfortunately, in 2012, a woman accidentally burned it down after climbing inside its huge hollowed-out trunk and smoked meth. When asked how she felt, the woman claimed she couldn't believe she burned down a tree older than Jesus. Ring-tailed lemur males will often have stink fights with each other, in which they apply secretions from their scent glands to their incredibly long tails and then waft it at their opponents. Kind of like people farting in real life. Oh, look at that, smell it. Yeah. While in a dressing room at the Grammy Awards, singer Katy Perry asked fellow artists Taylor Swift and Miley Cyrus for locks of their hair. The pair obliged, and Perry tied a ribbon around each clipping and put them in her purse. Nope, nobody knows why. Water isn't actually a good conductor of electricity. In fact, it's an insulator. The impurities in the water are what allow for the conduction of electricity, not the H2O itself. At the time of his death, Elvis Presley was planning his first European tour. He only ever held 5 official concerts outside of the United States, and every one of them was in Canada. According to the World Health Organization, the Republic of Nauru has the largest percentage of overweight inhabitants among all countries. A report done in 2007 revealed that around 94.5% of the population was overweight. In comparison, the United States came in 9th with 74.1%. Blue jays are capable of mimicking the cries of other birds, such as red-tailed hawks. They use this ability to keep predators away and sometimes to clear other birds away from food sources so that they can have it all to themselves. Film critic Roger Ebert co-wrote a comedy film called Up, which was a murder mystery about a caricature of Adolf Hitler living in Northern California. In 2016, scientists discovered a 99-million-year-old dinosaur tail that was perfectly preserved in amber and even still had feathers. Film action star Donnie Yen was once attacked by 8 gang members outside of a nightclub, and he told them to stop harassing his girlfriend and actually ended up hospitalizing all of them. Dogs have a third eyelid called a nictitating membrane, and according to Deborah S. Friedman from the American College of Veterinary Ophthalmologists, there are 4 functions to it. It clears away debris from the eye, produces a third of the dog's tears, fights infection, and protects the eye from injury. The Roman Emperor Nero wore emerald sunglasses when he watched the gladiator games. According to Polygon.com, the video game industry makes more money per year than the film industry and the music industry combined. In 2014, for example, the global revenue for video games was $83.6 billion compared to the film industry at $36.4 billion and the music industry at $15.6 billion. Legendary movie director Orson Welles directed the classic film Citizen Kane when he was only 25 years old. An unfertilized datestone beetle initially gives birth to 4 to 5 males and mates with the firstborn one. She then eats the rest of them and later gives birth to about 70 offspring of both males and females who then mate with each other. Sounds like some Game of Thrones stuff. The boreal forest stretches across Canada, the northern US, southern Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, Kazakhstan, northern Japan, and Mongolia. It's the largest land habitat on the planet. The biscuit company Nabisco is short for the National Biscuit Company. A remote village called Yaunanen on the island of Tana worships Prince Philip as a god and awaits his arrival to stay and live among them. A prophet of the village claimed he foresaw a great event happening and it would grab the world's attention. The collars of polo shirts were used to block the neck from the sun by flipping them up during tennis matches. Putting rabbit ears behind another man's head used to mean that their wife was being unfaithful to them. The 2 fingers were meant to be the horns of a stag that lost their mate to another male. Some of the most exclusive and elite credit cards in the world are made of gold and even have diamonds set in them. The botulinum toxin is the most lethal toxin known to humans and is also the main ingredient in Botox injections and is also used to treat muscle spasms. Ireland has some pretty crazy laws that have been around for hundreds of years, including one where if a leprechaun shows up at your door, you must give him a share of your dinner. Diddly-dee potato. On October 17, 1814, a vat that held 610,000 liters of beer ruptured, which caused other vats of beer to explode. This led to more than 1,470,000 liters of beer rushing into the streets and killed 8 people. If you were an adult living in Dodge City, Kansas from 1876 until 1885, you had at least a 1 in 61 chance of being murdered. The most decorated US soldier in World War II was Audie Murphy, who was only 21 years old by the time the war ended. He killed 240 German soldiers, earned 33 awards and medals, and became a film star. Because of a shortage of airline pilots in China, pilots can earn up to $300,000 a year tax-free. Pilot Jeff Graham says that he would fly up to 100 hours a month when he flew for Southern Air, but when he took a job at a carrier in Shenzhen, he only flies 50 hours for 3 times the pay. The ancient Mayans drew some of the first comics known and featured a clever rabbit known as the Mayan Bugs Bunny. In one of the comics, the rabbit says to an old man, "Smell your sweat, wizard penis." KFC partnered with the Chinese phone company Huawei and created a limited edition smartphone celebrating their 30th anniversary of opening in China. In the 1st century AD, author and philosopher Pliny the Elder correctly recognized amber as the fossilized resin of pine trees and had a deep appreciation for all minerals such as diamonds, sapphires, and rock crystals. Canadian citizens can sign up to receive a free flag from the top of Parliament Hill after it's retired, but the current waitlist to get one will take around 99 years. Better start waiting. In 2014, astronomers discovered a supernova that has been continuously exploding since the 1950s, which is odd because typical supernova explosions last around 100 days. The hit song "Whoop, There It Is" was released in 1993 and still makes up to $500,000 a year. It's also been called both the best and worst song of the 90s. Finland celebrates a holiday on November 1st called National Jealousy Day, where every citizen's taxable income is made public at 8 a.m. The first gathering of the world leaders to discuss the fate of any other species besides humans took place in 2010, and it was called the Global Tiger Summit. There are approximately 1 billion cigarette lighters sold in the US each year, with about 700 million of those being imported from other countries. China alone imports close to 400 million of those lighters. 5 mysterious slabs of granite weighing 20 tons each showed up in a barren field in Georgia and had guidelines on it for what to do during the apocalypse carved on them. It displayed 10 commandments to live by, such as keeping the population under 500 million, uniting humanity with a new language, and avoid petty laws and useless officials. According to a study by the CUNY PhD program in economics, since the ride-sharing app Uber was introduced in New York City in 2011, drinking-related car wrecks have decreased by up to 35%. Movie star Denzel Washington paid for Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman's education at the summer theater program at the University of Oxford before he was famous. When Denzel saw Boseman at the premiere of Black Panther, he jokingly told him that he was there to collect.
Oh, so that's why I'm here. You owe me money.
Out of the 2.9 million female high school athletes, only 3% are cheerleaders, even though they account for more than 65% of the catastrophic injuries in girl high school athletics. The makers of the popular game Cards Against Humanity bought a 6-acre island in Maine and named it Hawaii 2 because it's the mainland. US President Theodore Roosevelt tragically lost his mother and first wife when they both died on Valentine's Day in 1884 at different times of the day. Australia supplies around 50% of the world's legally grown opium, which is used for morphine and painkillers by growing poppy farms. The farmers are having trouble keeping the wallabies out because they like to eat the poppies and as a result become high from them and run around in circles. Don't mind me, I'm a wallaby just running around in circles. That makes me happy. The horror film Paranormal Activity made $194 million even though it only had a budget of $15,000. In 1965, a morbidly obese man was put in an experimental fast where he was only given multivitamins and potassium tablets and as a result lost 124 kilograms. A pet bloodhound was let out to pee one morning and ended up running the Elkmont Half Marathon in Alabama, where she ran the entire race and was placed 7th. In 2015, a man was arrested for drunkenly riding a horse on the freeway. He told the officers that the horse knew the way home, and the sheriff decided that he did not qualify as a DWI. The US Navy is starting to replace all of their periscope controllers in their submarines with Xbox 360 controllers, which have cut training time down from hours to only minutes. According to the Air Travel Consumer Report, United Airlines has the worst record of pet deaths on their planes than any other airline. Lord of the Rings star Viggo Mortensen bought 2 horses that he rode in the movies and also later bought the horse that he rode in Hidalgo. Former heavyweight champion boxer Mike Tyson's workout consisted of waking up every day at 4 a.m. and running 3 to 5 miles in a jog. Then he would complete 2,000 sit-ups, 500 push-ups, 500 dips, and 500 shrugs a day. I can do like 30 sit-ups. So, when NBA superstar LeBron James was 18, he rejected a $10 million offer from Reebok because he felt that Nike or Adidas would offer more money. He later accepted $90 million from Nike shortly after. Calvin and Hobbes creator Bill Watterson turned down an estimated $300 to $400 million when he refused to license and merchandise his work because he wanted to maintain the purity and integrity of the comic. Nolan Bushnell, who was the founder of the video game company Atari, sold the company and used the money to start Chuck E. Cheese's. In 1897, 3 Swedes attempted to be the first people to reach the North Pole by riding in a hot air balloon, but it ended up crashing after 65 hours. 33 years later, a ship found their camp along with their bodies and discovered that they in fact survived for weeks by hunting polar bears. Because of President John F. Kennedy's privileged childhood as well as upbringing, he claimed that he only knew about the Great Depression through books that he read while attending Harvard University. In 1985, a drug smuggler dropped 40 kilograms of cocaine over Georgia's Chattahoochee National Forest. A black bear then found the cocaine, ate all of it, and later died from a massive overdose. White House physician Admiral Joel T. Boone invented a game called Hoover Ball for President Hoover. It was a combination of tennis, volleyball, and medicine ball created to help keep President Hoover physically fit. All 10 of the documented people that lived the longest are all women. Each range from 116 years old to 122 years old, and they were kicking right up until the end. The plane that was crashed in the movie The Dark Knight Rises with the use of computer-generated special effects actually did crash the next year, killing 2 people on board. The word emoji is the Japanese term for picture characters. Emojis were actually born out of necessity back in 1999 when mobile carriers were struggling to support the messaging needs of 80 million users of a rapidly growing technology of cell phones, and their hopes were that an emoji would reduce the need for multiple text messages or even picture messages. Blue Jays and Cardinals go bald in the late summer and fall. I got a little blue jay in me. Usually, they lose all their feathers and replace them gradually when they molt, but sometimes they lose them all at once, creating a bald head. They're only bald for about a week though, and their feathers grow back. Over 3,200 confirmed new planets have been discovered by telescope. The strongest insect in the world is the dung beetle. It can pull 1,141 times its own body weight. That would be like the average person pulling 6 double-decker buses full of people. London-based ice cream company The Lictators teamed up with breastfeeding campaigner Victoria Hilly to celebrate the birth of royal baby number 2 by relaunching their breast milk flavored ice cream. The ice cream is called Royal Baby Gaga. It's made of donated breast milk that has been screened with hospital standards and Madagascan vanilla. Tasty. If you are caught injuring or killing a swan or stealing one of their eggs in the UK, you could be fined or could be sent to jail for up to 6 months. South African architect Clara de Cruz Almeida has designed a little portable house that can be packed into a 258 square foot pod and shipped anywhere. Gladiators were for the most part vegetarians. Their diets consisted of barley and vegetables. This enabled them to put on weight to protect them during fights and make them appear more spectacular to the crowd. On October 29, 1998, the first astronaut to orbit the Earth, John Glenn, made history again by becoming the oldest man to fly in space. He traveled aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery at the age of 77 as part of a NASA study on health problems associated with aging. Even though George Washington chose the site for the White House, he never actually lived there. In fact, he's the only president who did not reside in the White House. There's a gang of women called the Gulabi Gang or Pink Gang in India who stand up to abusers in the country. The gang was founded in 2006 and is based in Badauza. It has a whopping 400,000 members and helps bring rapists, abusers, and corrupt policemen to justice. The women that join the gang are registered, given a small ID card, and wear a distinctive pink uniform, a pink sari. And for 500 rupees a year, they also get a stick to carry. Lady Gaga has a whole genus of ferns named after her. A DNA sequence spells out Gaga, and the ferns have Gaga-like qualities. Some of them resemble her elaborate stage costumes, and one of them is even called the Gaga Monstra Parva. There used to be a fifth playing card suit called the Eagle. In the United States, those cards were green with an eagle on them instead of red or black. In England, they were blue with a royal symbol for a crown. They were originally intended to be used in the game of bridge. According to a team of astronomers and geologists led by J. Alexis Rodriguez at the Planetary Science Institute at Tucson, Arizona, there is evidence that there were two massive tsunamis on Mars billions of years ago. They were both triggered by meteor impacts and were millions of years apart. They created waves as high as 150 feet. The Hunger Games is banned in Vietnam. The movie was originally just delayed, but according to a member of the Vietnamese National Film Board, the board considers the film to be too violent and unanimously voted for it to be banned. Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story was actually named after astronaut Buzz Aldrin, the second astronaut to walk on the moon. The first Ferris wheel was invented in 1893 for the Chicago World's Fair by George W. Ferris. It was 260 feet high, cost 50 cents per ride, and could carry 60 passengers in each of the 36 cars. That's a total capacity of 2,160 passengers. In Alaska, it's against the law to look for a moose from an airplane. The fin whale produces an average of 257 gallons of urine each day. That's a whole lot of pee-pee. There's a toilet made by Kohler called the Numi that has a heated seat, foot warmers, lights, and Bluetooth technology. Who needs Bluetooth for a toilet to count your number of poops? Anyway, moving on. Salt and pepper actually comes in liquid form in space. If astronauts tried to sprinkle regular salt and pepper, it would just float around. Cheese-making artists at Dublin's Science Gallery made cheese using bacteria from several artists and scientists that were collected using sterile cotton swabs from various parts of their body, including a belly button, a mouth, and even tears. Grand Banks, Newfoundland, Canada is the foggiest place in the world, with 206 foggy days every year. The California condor is the largest flying bird in North America. Its wingspan can be as wide as 10 feet from tip to tip, and they can fly as high as 15,100 feet in the air by catching air currents. The duck-billed platypus and the echidna are the only two mammals to lay eggs. More twins are born in Nigeria than any other place on Earth. The landscape arch in Arches National Park, Utah, has the longest natural rock span in the world, spanning 290 feet. The peacock spider does a little mating dance to attract a partner. Each type of peacock spider has its own style of dance. I really dislike spiders, but I have to be honest, this is kind of cute. Elephant Island, located off the coast of Antarctica, has elephant moss growing on it that is over 5,500 years old. The Nile crocodile rolls and squeezes her eggs in her mouth to help her hatchlings emerge. The White House, the Empire State Building, the Sears Building, and Dodger Stadium are so large that they have their own zip codes. There are over 10 million weddings in China every year. Couples spend an average of $12,000 on each, and it's estimated that the wedding industry there will reach $120 billion by 2019. The Pope has his own vehicle that he uses at public appearances called the Pope-mobile. Now, you probably already knew that, but what you might not know is that it has bulletproof glass that surrounds him, as well as a handrail for him to hold on to while he stands and waves at the crowd in order to get in and out. It's designed to protect him and still allow him to be visible to the crowds. Every year, London holds the Great British Duck Race, where people purchase rubber ducks to help support various charities. The ducks are raced raced more than half a mile down the River Thames, and the first one over the finish line wins a cash prize. In 2009, they set a world record for the largest plastic duck race with over 205,000 ducks. The vampire fish impales their prey with their long, sharp fangs. Their fangs can grow as long as 6 inches. All NHL hockey pucks are frozen before the game because they glide smoother and faster when frozen. The trapjaw ant from Central and South Africa can snap its jaw shut at a speed of up to 145 miles per hour. To put that into context, that's 2,300 times faster than the blink of an eye. According to a study led by Yegor Malyshev, a zoologist at St. Petersburg State University in Russia, the Australian red kangaroo and the eastern grey kangaroo are almost always left-handed. Bellandur Lake in Bangalore, India is so toxic that it's covered in froth and sometimes bursts into flames. The foam on it is a result of toxic water which has a high amount of ammonia and phosphate and very low dissolved oxygen because of decades of untreated chemical waste going into it. Because of the amount of grease, oil, and detergent in the froth, it often catches fire. People who live in Estonia have been able to vote via the internet since 2005. It has actually snowed in the Sahara Desert in 1979 and 2012. The trombone was originally called the sackbut. Port Lincoln, Australia holds an annual festival called the Tunarama. The main event is the World Championship Tuna Toss competition, where the winner is the one who can throw their tuna the farthest. There is a sauna in Norway that can house 150 people. It's a large timber construction set on a beach overlooking the Arctic Ocean. The bowhead whale, which lives exclusively in the Arctic, has the thickest blubber of all the whales. It can get as thick as 28 inches. Hurricane Patricia from 2015 is the strongest hurricane recorded in the Western Hemisphere. It had winds as high as 200 miles per hour. Owls are unable to roll or move their eyes, so they have to turn their heads to look sideways. The hooded pitawee bird from Papua New Guinea was the first documented venomous bird. Its feathers and skin contain the same poison that is commonly found in poison dart frogs. It's the most powerful natural toxin known to man. Army ants in the forests of Central and South America have been documented building living bridges by linking their bodies to get over gaps and to create shortcuts in the rainforest. They can maintain that bridge even as large numbers cross due to their ability to carry 20 times their own body weight. Alabama was the last state in the United States to lift the ban on interracial marriages. The government didn't remove it until the year 2000, over 30 years after the Supreme Court ruled that such a ban was unconstitutional. 86-year-old nun Madonna Buder gained the nickname the Iron Nun due to her amazing endurance. She's completed over 40 Ironman races, which consist of a 180-kilometer bike ride, 3.9-kilometer swim, and a 42.2-kilometer run. She was the oldest Ironman triathlon competitor. According to a Harvard study that was published in the New York Times, if you were born on September 16th, you share a birthday with more people than anyone who wasn't. Research scientists working alongside Facebook, who were studying a sample of 160,000 Facebook users, discovered that people who preferred dogs to cats had more online connections on average and were more likely to be in a relationship than users who preferred cats. There's an island in the Thousand Island chain separating Canada and the United States in the St. Lawrence River that's officially called Just Enough Room Island. It was purchased by the Sizeland family in the 1950s and has just enough room on its surface for a house, a tree, and a couple of chairs to sit on the outside. As of June 2018, there are only 3 northern white rhinos left in the world, 1 male and 2 females, all of which live in captivity in northern Kenya. And disturbingly, despite the male being on death watch, these creatures are still sought after for their horns by poachers. A shrimp's heart is located in its head. The ostrich is the fastest animal on Earth that travels on 2 legs. These flightless animals are capable of running as fast as 64 kilometers an hour for brief periods, such as when escaping a predator or other danger, and and 48 kilometers an hour if they need to travel long distances. Between 1934 and 1938, while serving time for tax evasion in Alcatraz, gangster Al Capone racked up some good behavior points with the warden and was permitted to play the banjo in the prison band that he helped form. The Rock Islanders performed every Sunday for the prison's other inmates. From 1733 to 1755, all lawyers were banned from the state of Georgia. They were considered pests and the scourge of mankind. It was believed that every person was perfectly capable of pleading their own case when required. The peridot gem is the only gemstone that's literally not of this world. They've been spotted on comets, in large formations on Mars, and inside certain meteorites that have fallen to Earth from deep space. Queen Victoria's doctor gave her marijuana to relieve pain when she was experiencing menstruation cramps. The capybara, a native of many South American countries, is the world's largest rodent. These web-toed creatures can grow over 1.3 meters long and weigh as much as 65 kilograms. On August 3rd, 2016, IBM scientists in Zurich, Switzerland announced that they'd created a neuron out of germanium antimony telluride, which replicates a biological neuron. It could be the first step in creating an artificial brain. For the first time ever, the United States government has approved a private company to land on the moon. The Florida-based Moon Express has been given permission for their planned robotic lunar landing, the first of several missions to visit the moon and harvest resources from it. The opossum is known to play dead when in danger or frightened. The reaction is actually involuntary as the animal enters a comatose state as a defense mechanism. Whenever what caused the fear is gone, they wake up again. In 1919, the Stanley Cup final in Seattle was canceled due to a Spanish flu outbreak. Never before or since have the finals themselves been canceled. The space between your thumb and your extended forefinger has a name. It's called a perlicue. Believe it or not, fish can actually drown or suffocate while in water. They get their oxygen directly from the water through their gills, and if that water runs out of oxygen for whatever reason, they drown just like an air-breathing animal would. On July 4th, 2016, Egypt announced it was ending the practice of daylight savings time 3 days before it was due to start. The provincial government in Alberta, Canada, claims that the province has been rat-free for over 50 years. Though the rodents do enter on board trucks, trains, and on foot, they are almost always alone and thus cannot breed to create more. Ireland has a theme park which is owned by and named after a potato chip brand. Tato Park is located right across the street from the company's manufacturing plant, and whenever a guest enters or leaves, they are given a small packet of Tato crisps. Mercury's orbit brings it so close to the sun that its surface temperature can get as hot as 427 degrees Celsius. However, due to the fact that there isn't much of an atmosphere there to keep all that heat trapped, as soon as night comes, temperatures become substantially colder, falling as low as negative 173 degrees Celsius. According to a study conducted by TDG Research, the average Netflix subscriber spends over 550 hours every year using the service. On multiple occasions, hippopotamuses, which are normally vegetarians, have been documented cannibalizing one of their own dead. Well, one of these facts was bound to be disturbing. For 11 years in the 70s and 80s, skateboarding was banned in Norway due to the country's environment ministry overreacting to the dangers the hobby put children in. Owls have 3 eyelids. The upper lid closes when the owl blinks, the lower one closes when the owl sleeps, and the third one is a thin layer of tissue that closes diagonally from the inside out to clean and protect the surface of its eye. Since they're unable to sweat, wood storks and vultures will often urinate down their own legs to keep cool. Over 2,500 decommissioned New York subway cars have been dropped into the Atlantic Ocean to help create an underwater reef for crustaceans and fish. In parts of Pakistan and other areas of southern Asia, people will actually smoke dried up dead scorpions to get high. Female spotted hyenas, which are significantly larger than their male counterparts and are the more dominant of the species, don't actually have a vagina. Instead, they actually have a type of pseudopenis. The fastest man on Earth, Usain Bolt, has a condition called scoliosis, which creates a curvature of the spine and gets worse as the body ages and grows. There's a yoga practice called Kachari Mudra, where you roll your tongue up in your nasal cavity. It's supposed to help you overcome thirst, hunger, decay, and death. I don't know, I'm pretty hungry right now. It's not working. Though they're often only the size of small cities, the force of gravity inside a neutron star is nearly 2 billion times stronger than the gravity here on Earth. These collapsing sun cores have a mass that's 1.4 times the mass of our own sun. Ireland, New Zealand, Iceland, and Newfoundland are all places that have no snakes native to them. The world's largest airship, the Airlander 10, is 92 meters long. It's filled with almost 37,000 cubic meters of helium and can reach an altitude of 4.8 kilometers. Nicknamed the Flying Bum, the ship is shaped like a posterior and can remain in the sky for up to 5 days. Food Inc. is the world's first 3D printing restaurant. In the restaurant, all the food, all the utensils, and all the furniture are produced through 3D printing. The edible art is prepared by the finest chefs with fresh natural ingredients. Nike's slogan, "Just Do It," was actually inspired by the final words of murderer Gary Gilmore. His final words before being executed by firing squad were, "Let's do it." Advertising executive Dan Whedon altered it and pitched it to Nike, who ended up making "Just Do It" their iconic slogan. The Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate known on Earth. Scientists have estimated one shark to be 400 years old. The giant pyrosome is a rare bioluminescent sea creature that is made up of dozens of smaller creatures that reproduce through cloning. They can regenerate injured or missing body parts and live extraordinarily long lives. The Antechinus is a little mouse-like mammal that mates so much it actually kills itself. Males live less than a year, frantically mating like crazy until their bodies literally start to fall apart. Engineers at the University of Washington have developed a way of communicating that would allow contact lenses and brain implants to send signals to your iPhone. Interscatter communication works by converting Bluetooth signals into Wi-Fi signals. Orangutans build a brand new nest to sleep in every single night. Each one is 11 to 12 meters off the ground and is made from leaves, branches, and sticks. The nests have to be sturdy, as the average orangutan weighs 38 kilograms, yet still, the animals rarely reuse or even improve an old one, opting instead to start from scratch. Actor Tom Hanks has an asteroid named after him, the 12818 Tom Hanks. There's a cave in Australia called Well It Wasn't There Last Year Cave. In the 1980s, Robert L. Crandall, the head of American Airlines at the time, decided to remove a single olive from each salad served in first class on board every plane, and it saved $40,000 that year. According to a survey released by TravelZoo, 64% of Americans confess to peeing in the pool or ocean while on vacation. Think about that next time you get some water in your mouth. Chinese checkers wasn't actually invented in China and actually has no connection to any country in Asia whatsoever. The star-shaped marble game originated in Germany in 1892, and it only became known as Chinese checkers when it reached the United States and companies wanted to take advantage of the popularity of Oriental imports.